What up, though? The Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott, they weren't able to come up with a long-term agreement. I want to break down some of the takeaways from that, make sure everybody's on the same page as far as what exactly it means. Now, that came out immediately after he sent some words through James Slater of the NFL Network that he's focused on taking the team to the Super Bowl. And anybody that knows Dak's composition knows that he's not going to allow the football dealings, the business side of football, I should say, affect what happens on the field. So all steam ahead. The Cowboys are going to be working towards getting to the Super Bowl, and really that's going to be the best case scenario for Prescott, is that the two sides can go and have some playoff success. That's going to only increase how much he can demand. He's clearly a leader. The team rallies around him. They love him. He has an outstanding record. They just don't have a lot of playoff success under him, and that would kind of be the last thing he needs to cement himself among the elite quarterbacks in the league. So a lot of other things are happening. Now, there's only been 8 quarterbacks in the NFL that have been franchise tagged by their teams. Most of the time, a franchise quarterback, he gets to close to free agency, the team re-ups because it's so difficult to find a quarterback. Only twice has a quarterback who was under the franchise tag actually gone into the season without a long-term agreement. That was Drew Brees in San Diego and Kirk Cousins with the Washington franchise. Neither one of those guys ended up signing a long-term agreement with their team. So that's obviously a danger alert when it comes to the fact that Prescott is now going to go into the season. They just weren't able to work out a deal. So the Cowboys have a long history, long recent history of using the franchise tag, probably more so than any other franchise. They've done it 7 times since the 2007 season. Ken Hamlin, Des Bryant, they were both tagged and immediately were able to work out a deal before the season started. Anthony Spencer was tagged twice. The Cowboys didn't work out a long-term deal with him. He ended up wrecking his knee, needed microfracture surgery, was never the same. DeMarcus Lawrence was tagged twice. The first year, obviously, they didn't work out a long-term agreement. Then he was tagged again, and he had to threaten having the shoulder surgery, delaying the shoulder surgery, I should say, before the season started in order for him to get his long-term agreement last off season. So mixed bag of results. Dak Prescott is now the 7th guy. A little bit of mixed bag as far as how the Cowboys have fared with working out long-term agreements. Now, one of the clear, obvious things is Dak Prescott is about to make a lot of money. A man that's only made $4 million over his first 4 seasons is now set to make $31 million over the course of this season. Now, the NFL, with the new CBA, they changed the rules. Instead of getting paid over 17 weeks, they now double that. It's 34 weeks. So he's basically going to make almost $1 million a week, which is more than what he's made the first 3 years of his deal. He made $2 million last year, but he's basically making more on a weekly basis than he made in entire seasons to start his career. So while we would have loved to see Dak Prescott taken care of and getting the guaranteed money that quarterbacks deserve, that quarterbacks get around the league, he's still going to be in a much better financial situation than he has been before. Now, there's a lot of takeaways to how you can spend the money. Dak Prescott is now the number 1 cap hit in the NFL for the 2020 season, $31.4 million. That's more than anybody has taken up on their team's cap. It's 15.8%. Shout out to Stephen Jones, who already said no team is going to win a Super Bowl if a player takes up more than 13%. Now you have a player taking up 15.8% of your cap. Beyond that, though, he's 8th when it comes to average annual salary among quarterbacks, but he's 17th in the NFL as far as quarterbacks and how much guaranteed money they have in their contracts that they're currently playing under. So the same $31.4 million can be looked at 3 different ways as far as where it puts Dak Prescott among his contemporaries. Now, another thing we want to talk about, the cap space for 2021. Can the Cowboys afford to do the double up cap when it comes to Prescott? It's $31 million now. It's going to be $37.7 million next year. But they only have $36 million of projected cap space, and that's if the cap expands to a balloon payment of $215 million. That's probably not going to happen. Everybody thinks the cap is either going to stay flat at $198 million or go backwards, which means the Cowboys are going to have to make a lot of moves in order to free up enough space to tag Prescott again. Remember, the tag window comes before free agency starts, which means that you kind of have to have that in place before the new league year begins if you're going to tag a player. So there's a lot to be considered there. Now, one thing that isn't getting talked about, and I have to give a shout out to my man Landon McCool for being the first person that brought this up. Todd France should not be escaping this without any kind of detriment to his reputation. Prescott fired his original agents. He signed with CAA and Todd France last year. Now we've had 2 off seasons where the Cowboys, who pretty much give anybody what they demand, as far as salaries, they caved with Lawrence, they caved with Ezekiel Elliott, but they didn't cave with Prescott. You kind of have to wonder how much blame his agent, Todd France, has to take in the fact that no deal was done. We've heard that Prescott reached out to the Cowboys at the end of the deal, at the end of the tag window, and they just weren't able to come to an agreement. I don't think it was a good idea for him to do that, but maybe he was just trying to take it into his own hands, unsatisfied with the fact that twice they've gone to the table with the Cowboys and have not been able to come up with an agreement. France is the one that got Ryan Tannehill his outstanding deal with the Tennessee Titans, journeyman quarterback, 9 starts, all of that kind of stuff. But you gotta wonder how much France played a role in the two sides not being able to come up to some level of agreement. So that turns us into, if the Cowboys have trouble signing or putting another franchise tag on Dak, clearly they can negotiate without a tag, but it's something that kind of gets the ball rolling normally. Do the Cowboys now go on draft watch for a quarterback? They have a lot of compensatory picks that are coming up, 3rd, 4th, 5th, that are going to be in their wheelhouse. We don't know where they're going to finish, so we don't know where their first round pick is going to be. But with all those comp picks, could the Cowboys possibly consider trading up in the 2021 draft in order to find a future quarterback? It's something that's kind of going to have to be considered, because you're not going to find anybody if you're drafting in the 20s. Very rare that you get an Aaron Rodgers that slides to you, and you can end up getting a franchise quarterback in the 20s. The Packers hope they struck gold again with Jordan Love this year, but most of the times you're going to want to be in the top 10, top 15 in order to get a franchise quarterback out of the draft. And if you want your choice, you really need to be in the top 5. So will the Cowboys now go on draft watch as far as finding the future quarterback of the Cowboys? Do they have belief that Ben DiNucci is going to be their lightning in the bottle 3 times with Tony Romo, Dak Prescott, and then DiNucci of finding somebody later in the draft or an undrafted free agency that can actually steer the ship? You kind of can't count on that. There's going to be a lot of players that are going to be free agents next year that sign short deals with their teams this year that are going to be looking for starting gigs. You have Jameis Winston, you have Cam Newton. Those guys are going to come into play as far as being a possible transition if the team cannot work out an agreement with Dak Prescott. But all in all, it's just going to be a weird situation for the Cowboys to be in, because they didn't have to be here. We know that they could have signed him for $29 million last offseason. It would have been the going rate before all the other guys, before the Wilson and Roethlisberger extensions, before Goff and Wentz got their new deals. $29 million would have done it. It would have put him at the top of the market. But they let him play out the season. He proved that he was worth more than they had considered. And now they're in a situation where they're playing year to year and taking up a ton of their cap space on 1-year deals for their quarterback, when they should be being able to save money in preparation for the reduced salary cap due to COVID-19. So it's just a mess, but once you get on the field, all of that melts away. We hope there's no animosity. We hope they can get back to football, and we'll see if the Cowboys can, under Mike McCarthy in his first year, overcome all of these obstacles and still have a successful season. That's it. You know what it is. Wear a damn mask, you coward.